Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, so this podcast today might not be very long. Let's see, I don't know. What do I have here? I'm actually going to dive into some UFC, which, as you guys know, I do about every once in a while. I don't do it a lot, but yeah, I'm going to talk about the Rodgers situation at the end of the show, and the NFL draft as well. So, not a very long podcast, but I'm going to get some strong segments in. So, and tomorrow, just as a heads up, it is highly unlikely that there will be a podcast because I do have a track meet, so I'm going to spend the day prepare. I have a track meet I have to be at the school at 2:15. I'm going to spend the day preparing for that. And the time I spend preparing for that is going to fill in the time I usually spend preparing the podcast. So, but as I said, any time I can get a podcast in, it will happen. I know that's kind of annoying because it's not very consistent. Honestly, I've done a consistent schedule before. I obviously can. It's just my new schedule isn't. My new schedule makes it harder for me to do podcasts. And I think I've already mentioned enough what my schedule is. But whenever I have the time, I cannot stress this point enough. Whenever I have the time, get a podcast in. Frankly, I think I'm just going to stop saying that because I think I'm probably just going to stop explaining it at the beginning of the shows. Because I'm probably going to stop explaining at the beginning of the show, honestly, because I think it gets repetitive and I think it takes up a lot of the time I can spend talking about sports, which is what you're all listening for. So, I'm not gonna shut my mouth, but you know what I mean. So, as you guys know, Rudy Gobert was suspended for one game. He's gonna miss the play-in tonight, and that's gonna be very crucial because I honestly think, even with all the injuries the Timberwolves had prior to this, they still had Edwards, Towns, Gobert. And when you have that Towns, Gobert, like when you have them as a duo, they can shut down Anthony Davis. And when you shut down Anthony Davis, like I said, at LeBron's age, it's pretty difficult for him to carry, like he can't carry a team to the finals. And it's hard for him to even carry them to a single win in a play-in game. The good news for both the Timberwolves and the Lakers is if you lose tonight, you have a second chance. And, they'll play either the Pelicans or Thunder, which I think both the Timberwolves and Lakers can beat the Thunder and the Pelicans no matter what. So, and genuinely, I think the play-in is just a stupid concept. 9 and 10 seeds should not have a shot. The whole Hawks run last year was stupid. Should not have happened. But yeah, so the Timberwolves president came out and pretty much said what I think any decent president would say, which is that his behavior was embarrassing. Obviously, it's patently stupid to punch a teammate in any situation or swing at a teammate. I don't know what Rudy Gobert was thinking, but honestly, I don't think it would be crazy to blame Gobert, at least put partial blame on him if they lose tonight. Because honestly, like I said, Gobert, I mean, I think he's viewed normally as a number 3, but in this game, in this particular matchup against the Lakers, he's a very valuable asset. He's a great defender, and the Lakers have Anthony Davis. And when you shut down Anthony Davis, like I said yesterday and today, when you shut down Davis, you leave it to a 39-year-old who, while he's still talented and while he's still really good, he can't carry a team anymore. It's not in his nature. But yeah, it's stupid when any player punches a teammate. It's even dumber when you're an important player and it's at an important time in the season. It's not like this was during Game 15 or mid-season. It's like this was the All-Star game or something. This was the last game going into the playoffs. The Timberwolves are fighting for a playoff spot, and Gobert goes out and punches a teammate. I don't think it gets any dumber than that. Alright, so as I mentioned before, I'm actually going to talk a little bit of UFC. Admittedly, I do not pay as much attention to the UFC as I do the NFL or NBA or even baseball. And I don't really talk a lot about baseball anymore, but yeah. And the difference here, I don't really watch UFC. I kind of just read about it. You know, I do a little bit of research, but I don't really watch the fights as entertaining as they can be. You know, but Israel won the middleweight title over Alex Pereira, and honestly, I don't think there was any way he was going to lose. This guy was not going to lose a 4th time in a row. You know, it's kind of like in football with a division rival. Like, hear me out. No, I know it sounds crazy comparing UFC to football, but think about it. When you fight a guy multiple times, eventually you should be able to get the better of him. You should get the upper hand at some point when you fight a guy multiple times. In the NFL, when a team plays a division rival twice, and then they play them again in the playoffs, the outcome is mostly different. Like the Bucks a few years ago played the Saints. They got destroyed twice and then came out in the playoffs and won, and they wound up winning the Super Bowl. So the outcome is often different after multiple occurrences, you know? So Israel and Pereira have fought. They fought 3 times before this. The outcome was the same each time. There was bound to be a different outcome at some point. You know, and he came through with it last night. Came through with the win over the weekends, and honestly, his speech afterwards was also very great. I thought him talking about, you know, I don't know I forget what he exactly said, but it was like, you know, you only achieve a feeling as great as he had by going for it. You know, you can't fear getting in there and getting knocked out, you know. It's a bit of a cliche, but I thought his speech was great message. But yeah, it was just a great moment. Pereira was seconds away from a fourth win in a row, and it quickly turned into what happened. You know, like, what the heck just happened? it was a very quick turnaround, and I think just a great moment overall over the weekend there. And by the way, I think everyone saw this. This is how cold-blooded Israel is. So, in 2017, when he got knocked out, was this like the first time he got knocked out? I don't know. He got knocked out. He lost in 2017. That was 6 years ago, obviously. And, Pereira's son ran in the cage, and he mocked the way that Israel fell. And I'm not really one for mocking, to be honest. I mean, I'd let him slide because he was a toddler. I mean, being in that atmosphere as a toddler is a lot. So, I mean, I guess I can let him go for that, but... And, I'm not going to tell anyone how to raise their kid, especially when I'm not even a registered adult myself. But this year, when Israel won, obviously, he went straight... This was, right after the knockout. He went straight to the kid who was crying, by the way, because as far as he knows, his father could not wake up. He might not wake up, So it's very stressful. He's 12 now, his son. And he looked at him, and he taunted him by falling the same way he fell 6 years prior. It's just, I don't know. It's crazier to me because he did it. It was the first thing he thought of. That's what's more crazy to me. If he just kind of casually looked over, saw the kid, and then just thought of doing that. But no, he seeked him out. He looked for him immediately. And he looked for him immediately and mocked him. I mean, that was... Like I said, I don't condone it, but I think it's just crazy how that was the first thing he thought of. I mean, it kind of gives you a concept as to how petty some people can be, and how, the little things that the pros remember. I mean, obviously you saw in the Michael Jordan documentary, he took everything personally, every little thing. He never forgot anything. Honestly, I know it happens a lot, but I don't think professionals ever get over losing games. I think every loss they have sticks with them, to be honest with you. And the feeling they had at the time, I think that also sticks with them. The feeling they had at the time of the loss, I don't think it ever goes away. But it kind of gets canceled out by the feeling they get when they win, especially when they win big games, But yeah, great moment for Israel and the UFC in general. Alright, so yesterday I spoke about the Lakers, and I spoke about the Lakers and how interesting this team is headed into the playoffs, because, to be honest with you, the Lakers, I don't think they're a championship contender, but I would not be shocked if they won a series. As crazy as it sounds. Because think about it, if they win tonight, get the 7th seed, they go against the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a more talented team, but talent rarely beats experience. Look at the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl from a few years ago. The Rams were more talented. They were. But Belichick and Brady, they shut down McVay and Goff. And they went over multiple crazy stats of how big the age gap was, and I think that was a big problem for the Rams. Now, talent can beat experience, Obviously, as a Packer fan, I remember I gave myself hope. It was 2019. That was the year we got crushed by the Niners twice. We got crushed in the regular season, but I was like, and then we went against them in the NFC Championship. I thought, hey, we got more experience. The Niners are still young, although they are much more talented than us. They're more talented, but they're not experienced enough. Obviously, I was wrong. But this situation is a little different, I think, because the Lakers, they do have talent. You know, they're not completely carried by experience. They got AD and some decent role players as well. You know, so they're very interesting because they started off 2-10, and like I said, they weren't 500 until like after Game 70. So it's kind of just a recent surge that they've had. You know, and a lot of people would argue, well, they're not playing very great teams, but you know, I think that argument is used a lot, and I think at this point it's overused, you know? I think at some point you have to acknowledge how well the Lakers are playing, especially considering where they came from. You know, they were, like I said, 2-10. They were terrible. They were one of the worst teams in basketball. And lately they've been playing like I'd say, top 10 team. You know, they've been playing really well. But it feels like they only play well when AD and LeBron both play well, you know? So there's a lot of variables with the Lakers. You know, there's a lot of counter arguments you can make. You know, I just mentioned one. They're not playing very great teams. Then there's a counter argument to that, which is they've been playing significantly better. So will this carry into the playoffs and lead them to win a series? I'm not saying they're going to the Western Conference Finals. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Warriors or Suns or Denver. I'm not saying they're going to beat any of those guys. But honestly, if they go against the Grizzlies, I think they can give the Grizzlies a decent run at it. I do. And that's only if the level they are playing at, that's only if it carries into the postseason. You know, because the last few games, they did kind of look like they were losing some gas, you know? So if it's a constant decline, if it's a gradual decline into the playoffs, they're going to have nothing. They're going to get beaten like 5 games with the Grizzlies. But like I said, I think they win tonight, and honestly, the playoffs is going to be a mystery for me, I think. I think the Lakers, there really hasn't, for the Lakers, there hasn't been really any in-between lately. It's either they're really good or they're awful. Yeah, that's been their narrative this season. They're either a really good team, they're either playing like a top 10 team, and AD's playing like a top 5 player, or AD's completely inconsistent, and they're playing like a bottom 5 team. You know, so I think they either get swept by the Grizzlies. Again, this is all assuming they win tonight. I think they either get swept by the Grizzlies or they take them to 7. I don't think there's any in between. All right, another team I spoke about yesterday was the Mavericks. They're another kind of interesting team for next year. Because I mean, my gut tells me they're not going to be good at all next year because they fell. In the last 2 months of the season, they fell from 4th to the 11th seed. Normally the argument to that is, well, Kyrie was a late season pickup. It takes time to build chemistry. I don't think Luka and Kyrie mix well together. They're both score first guys. I mean, yeah, okay. Luka averages 8 assists a game, I know. But Kyrie, James Harden, remember with the Nets? James Harden led the league in assists actually that year. And, they still didn't get past the second round. So I'm seeing moderate success at best with the Mavs with this Kyrie and Luka duo. I don't care. Luka can average 15 assists a game, all right? Harden averaged 11, so I mean, I don't think it matters how much they try to work with Kyrie. I don't think Kyrie is he just hasn't been a good team player the last few years. The last time he was a solid team player was with LeBron, and the last time Kyrie was on a team that went to the conference finals was the Celtics, and he didn't play most of the year. Kyrie, remember, it was the first year he was on the Celtics. They were doing really good out of the gate. They were like 16-2 or something. Then Kyrie gets hurt, but the Celtics were still able to play well. They were still able to play well without Kyrie, and they even went to the conference finals and went to 7 games without Kyrie. Then the next year, they're bounced the first round or second round. I don't even remember. Kyrie is a great talent, and that's all he is. That's all I see him as. All right. He didn't work with KD. They brought James Harden there. They gave him KD and James Harden. Probably the 3 top scorers in the league. Like, I don't know if there's a better 3. There's not a better trio of players at getting a basket quickly. Harden, he went on that tear where he averaged like 40, 50 a night. He went on an absolute tear. And KD has always been a very talented, very versatile scorer. Kyrie, the same, But I just don't think him and Luka are going to work well together. I honestly think they may have been better off without Kyrie. And I don't like saying this stuff, honestly. I mean, I think what people would probably like to say is, well, you're just not a fan of Kyrie. I mean, Yes, I do hold a bit of a grudge to him for leaving the Cavs the way he did. It was really just the way he left, honestly. That was what I was mad at. Honestly, I wasn't mad at the fact he left the Cavs. I was mad at the way he did it, It was just a really crappy way. It was just a really crappy way to leave. And, when he was dominating with the Celtics, I gave credit. When he was 16-2 with the Celtics, I was like, hey, maybe he was right. Maybe he was right to leave, But he clearly wasn't. He would have, I think, this is a good what if, actually. I think if Kyrie stayed on the Cavs, his career is significantly better. I think you can argue LeBron stays if Kyrie doesn't request a trade. I think that 2018 Cavs team, I think they make a good. I think they possibly win the finals that year with Kyrie. And, I think that makes LeBron stay. I don't know. It's a big what if. But yeah, what really, I think Kyrie just keeps giving me more reasons to dislike him, Kyrie. Because he leaves the Cavs, that was the first thing. Then he goes to the Celtics and completely fails as the leader, as the focal point, as number one. He completely fails doing with all those rules. You know, like I just said, the Celtics made it further without Kyrie in the playoffs. Then he teams up with KD in the Nets, and they don't go past the second round. KD, Kyrie, Harden didn't get past the second round. Let that sink in. All right, and now he goes to the Mavs, and they fall from 4th to the 11th seed. I don't know how much more evidence I have to give you. I don't think Luka and Kyrie are going to work well. If they prove me wrong, fantastic. But I'm using the evidence we have. That's what I'm surmising. I'm going to say I could honestly talk myself into saying they won't make the playoffs next year. And if they do, they'll probably be a low seed. I doubt they'll get past the second round. Kyrie hasn't done that since being with the Cavs. Okay, NFL draft. All right. Let's move on to the NFL draft. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening. The Falcons traded for Jeff Okudah. Not a lot of exciting picks involved in that trade, but I think trading for... I mean, Jeff Okudah is the only big factor of that trade, really. I mean, there was a 5th-round pick involved, but nothing too exciting. So, Carolina's got the first pick, traded with the Bears. I think their safest bet is C.J. Stroud. I think that's the safest bet. People are starting to lean more towards Bryce Young being the first pick. And Bryce Young's a great talent. But, the reports have said there is a durability concern, an injury concern for Bryce Young due to his size. But, that hasn't always been, whenever quarterbacks have that concern, it's not always true. I mean, with Tua, it seems to be a problem right now, but, you look at Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. I mean, it didn't stop them. But normally, the difference between Bryce Young and Russell Wilson is Bryce Young's 204 pounds. Russell Wilson was 240. So Wilson was kind of bigger and had less of a durability and injury risk, But I hope Bryce Young has a good NFL career. I hope he doesn't land with the Texans. And same thing for C.J. Stroud. I would not wish the Texans organization on my worst enemy. I'm going to be honest. But yeah, my contention is C.J. Stroud's probably the best bet for Carolina. But I'd love to see Bryce Young work as well, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis have also their draft stocks going up. It's kind of been... Anthony Richardson, in particular, has been skyrocketing up the mock drafts I've been seeing. I'm going to say he goes 4th overall. His problem's accuracy, not size, but yeah, I'm going to say 4th overall for Anthony Richardson. As we all know, the top 4 picks are very likely going to be quarterbacks. All right. We're going to close the day out talking about Aaron Rodgers. So we saw a few days ago our last update on the situation. Joe Douglas reaffirmed he's coming. He's going to be in New York. And I have been given no reason to say that's incorrect. And honestly, I have no idea. I know people are going to ask me this. Like, what do you think of Rodgers going to New York? I honestly don't know. I mean, there's things I'm excited about and things I'm completely scared of. Because letting go of Rodgers, we're letting go of that contract, which is going to open... I mean, if the Packers actually want to do something in free agency for once, it's going to work. The door's going to be open to that. I think a big problem the last few years has been Rodgers' contract. I think that's why we're not doing a lot in free agency. So letting go of his contract, I'm excited to see what they can do with that. And I have a lot of mixed emotions about finding out what Jordan Love is. Because if he turns out to be solid, because honestly, let's think about this. Jordan Love has played one full NFL game. We can't say he's a failure completely. Aaron Rodgers did not have a good first few starts. You know, the contention was Rodgers, they're not going to win with Rodgers. That was what announcers were saying. Unless things changed. There was an announcer, I don't know what his name was, but Rodgers was in a game. They said they're not going to win much with Aaron Rodgers unless things change drastically. They went on to make 5 NFC championships and even win the Super Bowl. That is winning with Aaron Rodgers. So, I don't think Jordan Love is completely hopeless yet. So, I am excited because if he turns out to be solid, the Packers could be in a really good spot. You know, when you put Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, that's a good future for the receiving core. We have, and honestly, our running back is good too. Aaron Jones, I don't know how many years he has left, but doesn't matter. We got AJ Dillon backing him up. And we're kind of already starting to use AJ Dillon more than Aaron Jones. And our defense seems to keep, they kind of fell off the last 2 years, I'd say. But they've been making gradual improvements, the defense. So, if Jordan Love turns out to be a solid player, we could be in a really good spot. But, if he turns out to be terrible, then we can be in a terrible spot. You know, because honestly, I think it's better to be really bad, because at least you know what you are, than to be, like, in that 7-10 spot, you know, because then it's like, because then you get to the draft, and it's like, you got a middle round pick, and you don't know what to do with that. You don't know because you don't want to give up on Jordan Love too early, you know, but, hey, we got our receiving core, defense isn't too bad, you know, so you're going to have to, like, dig for what you have to get in the draft. But yeah, I mean, and if by some miracle, I think there's like a 5 to 10% chance this happens, but if Rodgers does wind up staying, hey, I mean, another year of Rodgers, he won an MVP a year ago, not too far off that. So, I think whatever happens, I'm okay with. I'll definitely. I don't know what my initial reaction will be when the news comes out. You know, when the news inevitably comes out, I don't know what my initial reaction will be. I think I'm going to be kind of unsure of how I feel. You know, this is very similar to when... Actually, it's different, because at least if I have time to prepare. When Joe Girardi got fired by the Yankees, I was shocked, because it just came out of nowhere. I didn't know what was happening, and then I just got the report, and I was like, I don't know what to think about that. The Yankees are really just the same team they are every year. It's kind of annoying. But I can't be spoiled, because I know there are fans of teams that are much less successful, and I'm a Yankee fan. They've won 27 World Series, and they've made the playoffs constantly, so I can't be too mad. But, it's annoying because they give you... It's the same thing with the Packers. They give you hope every year that they can win it all, and then they just completely crush your dreams at the end. You know? It's really annoying. But yeah. So, good podcast today, and no podcast tomorrow. Very unlikely. Hopefully I can get back at it at Thursday. Not Thursday, definitely Friday. So, all right. This was Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Have a good day.